what you're giving me is conscience.
It was 1:30 a.m., November 5th, 1960. A drunk teenage driver crossed a Texas bridge and hit a Cadillac head-on, killing Johnny Horton, one of country music's brightest stars, just months after his song became the biggest record on the planet.
Out in the West Texas town of
Horton had predicted his own violent death for years. Nobody believed him until that night. That same Austin nightclub where he played his final show, the same stage where Hank Williams gave his last concert before his own fatal ride. Two legends, same stage, same highway to nowhere.
I wanna tell you all a story about
Welcome to VinylAt Dusk, where raw voices were pressed onto black wax and the greatest untold stories in country music have been waiting decades for someone to tell them right. Tonight, 10 artists who made one song that shook the world, then nearly disappeared.
in 1814.
Number 10, The Battle of New Orleans, Johnny Horton, 1959-1960. The man who wrote this song was a high school history teacher who invented it in 1936 as a classroom lesson to help students remember the War of 1812, setting Andrew Jackson's victory over the British to a 200-year-old fiddle tune. And it sat completely unknown for over 2 decades until Johnny Horton found it and decided it belonged on a record. When Columbia released it in April 1959, the song shot to #1 on the country chart for 10 weeks, crossed on over to conquer the pop chart, and became the #1 song of the entire year 1959 across every genre in America, winning Horton the Grammy for Best Country Performance, and the songwriter, Jimmy Driftwood, the Grammy for Song of the Year.
Down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
But within a year of that triumph, Horton was dead at 35, killed exactly as he had always predicted by a drunk driver on a dark Texas bridge. His widow, Billie Jean, left to bury him just as she had buried Hank Williams years before, 2 country legends taken by the same cruel kind of night.
As many as there was a while ago, we fired once more and they...
The drunk driver who walked away from that crash received a 2-year suspended sentence and served not a single day in prison. And Johnny Horton, who had warned everyone around him for years that a drunk man would be the end of him, was gone before his next record even had time to chart.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Number 9, El Paso, Marty Robbins, 1959-1960. He wrote it in the back seat of a car, and Columbia Records tried to gut it, cutting the 4-minute and 38-second ballad nearly in half before release. But Robbins fought to have the full version placed on the B-side. And when DJs across America flipped the record over, the switchboards lit up and country music was never quite the same.
My challenge was answered in less than a heartbeat.
El Paso became the first #1 song of the 1960s on both the pop and country charts simultaneously. The first song over 4 minutes long to ever top the Billboard Hot 100, and the winner of the very first Grammy ever awarded for Best Country and Western Recording. A cinematic story of lust, murder, and a dying cowboy crawling back to his love that hit harder than anything on radio that year.
Gun that he wore.
Robbins was never a pure one-hit wonder. He had real chart success before and after. But El Paso is the song that defined an era, the one Breaking Bad used in its series finale 50 years later, the one that proved a country ballad could be as epic and devastating as any Hollywood Western.
Every morning at the mine you could see him.
Number 8, Big Bad John, Jimmy Dean, 1961. Jimmy Dean wrote the entire song on an airplane because Columbia Records was about to drop him from the label, and he desperately needed one more track, borrowing the name from a towering 6'5" actor he knew, just because he loved the deep rolling sound of the phrase Big John.
All his strength he gave a mighty shove, then a miner yelled out, "There's a..."
When they got to the studio, pianist Floyd Kramer made the single greatest creative decision of the whole recording. Instead of standard percussion, they banged a real hammer against a piece of steel, creating that raw industrial sound that made every listener feel the weight and darkness of a coal mine from the very first beat.
Big Bad John.
Big Bad John hit #1 on the pop chart for 5 consecutive weeks, won the 1962 Grammy for Best Country Recording, and sold over 1 million copies on the strength of a 3-minute folklore tale about a silent giant who sacrificed himself holding up a collapsing mine shaft so every trapped miner could escape.
At the shoulder and narrowed the hip, and everybody knew you didn't give no.
Columbia Records had been ready to cut Dean loose before this record. And in a footnote that feels almost too strange to be true, Dean also saved the Muppets, talking Jim Henson out of selling the brand and turning down 40% ownership himself, telling Henson simply, never sell your talent. Number 7, Wolverton Mountain, Claude King, 1962. The mountain was real, the man on it was real, and the song was based on a genuine Arkansas mountain man named Clifton Clowers, the songwriter Merle Kilgore's own uncle, who really did live on that peak north of Malden and was reportedly mighty handy with a gun and a knife when it came to keeping suitors away from his daughters. Kilgore shopped the song all over Nashville. Johnny Horton said no, George Jones said no, until Claude King heard it, rewrote enough to earn co-writing credit, and in the summer of 1962, wrote it to 9 consecutive weeks at number 1 on the country chart, with crossover pop success and over 1 million copies sold. The song triggered a wave of covers from Nat King Cole, Bing Crosby, and Connie Francis, plus an answer record from the daughter's perspective. And the former governor of Arkansas eventually declared August 7th Wolverton Mountain Day, while Uncle Clifton himself attended King's shows for years, asking everyone to call him Uncle Clifton. Clifton Clowers died in 1994 at the age of 102, buried in the Wolverton Mountain Cemetery, and Claude King died in 2013 at 90, both of them outlasting the 2 bigger stars who turned that song down without a second thought. We are right at the halfway point of this countdown, and if these stories are landing the way I think they are, you already know VinylAt Dusk is built different. So if you are new here, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the second half of this list is where it gets really wild, and you do not want to miss what is coming.
I keep hearing you're concerned about.
Number 6, Flowers on the Wall. The Statler brothers, 1965. Johnny Cash was supposed to record this song. He was booked for the March 1965 session. But when he couldn't make it, Columbia gave the studio slot to his opening act from Virginia, a gospel-rooted quartet called the Statler Brothers, and what came out that day became one of the most quietly devastating records in country music history.
I've nothing to do. It's good.
Written by original tenor Lou DeWitt from raw personal experience. He had worked at a state mental hospital, and the stenciled flowers on every ward wall, the incomplete deck of cards, the midnight cigarettes watching Captain Kangaroo were all real details from that place. The song is a masterwork of sarcastic heartbreak, the narrator insisting to his ex that he is absolutely fine while every lyric proves the opposite.
Smoking cigarettes and watching.
It peaked at number 2 on the country chart, number 4 on the Hot 100, and won the 1966 Grammy for Best Contemporary Group Performance. Then 3 decades later appeared in Pulp Fiction, introducing a whole new generation to a song a broken man wrote about counting flowers just to survive the night.
Kangaroo, now don't tell me.
Lou DeWitt, the genius behind it, was forced out of the group by illness in 1982 and died at 52 in 1990, never quite receiving the full recognition that one Grammy-winning, Tarantino-approved, Vonnegut-analyzed record proved he deserved.
It was a 3rd of June and
Number 5, Ode to Billy Joe. Bobbie Gentry, 1967. She wrote it as the B-side. Capitol Records wanted a different song entirely, and Gentry handed them this 4-minute Southern Gothic mystery almost as an afterthought. A story about a Mississippi family eating supper, while the mother casually mentions that a boy named Billy Joe McAllister had jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge that morning, and nobody at the table even stops chewing.
she said, I got some news this morning from Choctaw.
DJs flipped the record, and within weeks, it had knocked the Beatles off the top of the Hot 100, where it stayed for 4 weeks, simultaneously displacing Sgt. Pepper's from the album chart, selling 750,000 copies in the first week alone and winning Gentry 3 Grammys, including Best New Artist, making her the first country artist ever to take that category. The song ignited a national obsession. What did Billy Joe and the narrator throw off that bridge before he died? And Gentry never once gave a straight answer, insisting the real horror was never the object, but the family's total emotional numbness. A grieving girl invisible at her own dinner table.
There's 5 more acres.
In 1975, a film was made. The mystery was loosely answered, and shortly after, Bobbie Gentry simply vanished. No announcement, no farewell, no explanation. Walking away from a career built on a B-side that beat the Beatles. And to this day, nobody knows where she is.
I wanna tell you all a story.
Number 4, Harper Valley PTA Jeannie C. Riley, 1968. She was working as a secretary in a Nashville publisher's office, and she did not want to record this song. But producer Shelby Singleton insisted, and what Jeannie C. Riley delivered was the story of Mrs. Johnson, a widowed single mother who shows up to the school PTA meeting in a miniskirt and exposes every hypocrite in the room one scandalous secret at a time. And America absolutely lost its mind.
We had to leave this town.
The record jumped from number 81 to number 7 on the Hot 100 in a single week, sold 1 million copies within 10 days, and made Riley the first woman in history to hit number 1 simultaneously on both the Billboard pop and country charts, a record that stood until Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 in 1981, while also winning CMA Single of the Year and the Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal.
Harper Valley PTA.
Songwriter Tom T. Hall based Mrs. Johnson on a real woman from his Kentucky childhood, someone the town relentlessly judged for refusing to be invisible, and named the song after a school he drove past called Harpeth Valley Elementary, turning a real injustice into a 6 million copy anthem for women who were tired of being told to sit down and be quiet.
And it was signed by the secretary.
The tragic irony is that Riley herself never wanted the persona. She underwent a deep religious conversion in the early 1970s and came to genuinely regret the image the song built around her. The woman who stormed the meeting in a miniskirt, forever frozen in time, while the real Jeannie C. Riley stood quietly behind her, wishing she had never walked through that door.
After little boy.
Number 3, DIVORCE, Tammy Wynette, 1968. Tammy Wynette later said she hated herself for not writing it, because the song ascribed her life so completely. Married at 17, a violent first marriage that put her in a psychiatric hospital, a second marriage that collapsed after 1 year, and 3 daughters she was raising alone when she walked into Columbia Studio B on March 22, 1968, and recorded every single tear in that vocal for real. The original melody had been too upbeat. Co-writer Bobbie Braddock laughed that it sounded like a soap commercial, until Curly Putman rewrote it into something so heavy with sorrow it could barely lift off the page, a mother spelling out DIVORCE and CUSTODY, letter by letter, to protect her 4-year-old son from the adult reality falling apart around them. It hit number 1 on the country chart in June 1968, Wynette's 3rd consecutive number 1, and the song was so emotionally precise that it later appeared in both 5 Easy Pieces and Brokeback Mountain, 2 films built entirely around characters who can only express pain in what they refuse to say aloud. Bobbie Braddock, one of the co-writers, later wrote "He Stopped Loving Her Today" for George Jones, widely called the greatest country single ever recorded. And Curly Putman had already given Dolly Parton her first hit. 2 Nashville giants who handed Tammy Wynette the perfect vehicle for everything she has survived.
See the tree, how big it's grown, but friend.
Number 2, Honey, Bobbie Goldsboro, 1968. Bobbie Goldsboro didn't want to record it. He heard the song once and wasn't moved. But when songwriter Bobbie Russell played it again stripped bare, just voice and guitar, Goldsboro suddenly heard one of the most devastating love stories ever written, and he had to wait months for another artist's version to run its course before he was even allowed in the studio.
And I laughed till I cried.
He recorded it on January 30th, 1968 in a single take. One pass, so raw and conversational and true they never ran it again. And within 3 weeks of release, it had sold 1 million copy lights, the fastest selling record in United Artists history, before spending 5 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Hot 100 and 3 weeks atop the country chart.
Only I could.
Honey was the best-selling record worldwide for the entire year of 1968, outselling even the Beatles' Hey Jude, and the CMA named it Song of the Year, making Goldsboro one of only 4 country artists in the entire 1960s to simultaneously top both the pop and country charts.
I'm sad and silly, late show.
Critics savaged it as manipulative and sentimental, and it has appeared on Worst Songs Ever lists for decades, right alongside Most Emotionally Powerful Songs Ever lists for the same decades. Because a song that critics despise and ordinary people weep over in their kitchens and cars is not a bad song. It is a song that went somewhere critics were too afraid to find.
My baby makes me proud.
#1, Behind Closed Doors, Charlie Rich, 1973. The song was born from a political scandal. Songwriter Kenny Odell kept hearing Behind Closed Doors on the nightly news during the Watergate hearings, pulled the phrase out of Congress and walked it straight into the bedroom, then handed it to a Memphis singer who had been grinding for a hit for over a decade, and several radio stations immediately refused to play it for being too intimate for 1973 country radio. The fans had no such reservations. By April 1973, it had gone #1 on the country chart, crossed to #15 on pop, and then swept every major award in sight. CMA Single of the Year, CMA Album of the Year, ACM Song of the Year, Grammy for Best Male Country Vocal, Grammy for Best Country Song, with that iconic piano intro played not by Rich himself, but by session legend Hargus Pig Robbins, whose opening notes became so embedded in country music that Time Life used them in infomercials for 20 years straight. But the story of Charlie Rich has a final chapter no one who loves him can forget. At the 1975 CMA Awards, handed the Entertainer of the Year envelope to announce the winner, Rich read the name John Denver and, visibly intoxicated, flicked his lighter and burned the card on live television while the entire industry watched in stunned silence.
She's a lady, just like a lady.
Rich later admitted he had actually voted for Denver on his own ballot and felt genuine remorse. But the damage was done, a decade of goodwill gone in 20 seconds of flame. And though Behind Closed Doors was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1998, Charlie Rich himself died in 1995, the Silver Fox never quite reclaiming the moment before the fire. Ten songs, 10 moments when ordinary people walked into a studio with something extraordinary and changed the sound of America. From a schoolteacher's history lesson to a widow's fury to a love song born from a political scandal. Every one of these records carries a human story that deserves to be told louder than the music itself. And that is exactly what VinylAt Dusk was built for. Drop your favorite in the comments. Share this with someone who grew up on this music. And until next time, keep the vinyl spinning and never let them forget the names.